What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I'm here with Season 3, Week 6 of the Major Pokemon League. This week against Cipher and the Detroit Liepards. Now, if you follow my National Pokeball League videos, and maybe not my Major Pokemon League ones if this is your first time, I did play Cipher in the National Pokeball League in Week 2, and we came out with a nice 2-0 victory with a cool hyper-offensive squad. And this week's actually going to be pretty similar in terms of the team build, in that I actually have to run offense against him. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he has on his team. So he has Volcanion, Gliscor, Alakazam, Mega Venusaur, Kieran Black, Melodic, Tentacruel, Bisharp, Gramble, and Pangoro. So, as you know, my team is rain-oriented. And as I'm sure many of you know, he has two of the best counters to rain teams, those being Volcanion and Mega Venusaur. So based upon that alone, this week kind of sucks in terms of building. I'm going to have to really be careful in how I am building my team because he has those two obvious yet very strong responses to rain sweepers. So more or less that essentially takes sweeping him with the rain out of the picture in terms of a viable option for my team build, which kind of sucks because that's obviously what my team does best. That was proven last week in my battle against the St. Louis Sableyes and Danicki, as I had a Swift Swim Marmaldo and Swift Swim Mega Swampert, put in a ton of work against him last week. Against Cipher, that's simply not going to be a possibility just because the team matchup does not really allow it. Now, how can I beat this terrifying team? He has a lot of wall breakers. That's the key here. He has the Kieran Black, he has Bisharp, he has Volcanion, all of which are amazing wall breakers. Pangoro too, to an extent. So, how do you beat wall breakers? Well, you don't bring walls. That's one way to do it for sure. Another way to beat wall breakers is with dual screens. And this is a strategy that I have used a few times in my draft format career. This is the same strategy I used to knock off Trev in MPL Season 3. 3? Yes, 3? 4. A couple seasons ago against Trev in the National Pokeball League, and that was when he had the likes of Victini, Kieran Black. Those are both very weak to dual screens. Plus, his team has exactly two ways to get rid of hazards, those being Gliscor and the Tentacruel. Now, Tentacruel I do not think will come against me this week just because I could easily spend Block It with Sableye, and just in general, it is setup fodder for a lot of my Pokemon, including the Superior, and even Sylveon to an extent. So I don't really think the Tentacruel will come. I do think that Gliscor will come. I don't know if Gliscor will be a defog variant because Cipher, played this team when it was coached by the old coach of this team, so Poiges, back in, I believe, the first week of this Major Pokemon League season, and he brought defog Gliscor that week. So that's something that I'm kind of expecting potentially, maybe Yachi Berry as a means of luring the Thundurus. However, he also only has two potential Stealth Rockers on his team, those being the Gliscor and the Bisharp. I really don't think he'll want to bring Stealth Rock Bisharp if he does bring it, just because offensively it's pretty darn good against my team, in my opinion. So I think if he brings Bisharp, it'll probably more be Lumberry, so that it can set up against the Sableye, maybe just not fear the Sableye in general. And if it's a Lumberry set, I really do not anticipate Stealth Rock, because Bisharp is very frail defensively. It has that 4x weakness to fighting, as well as weaknesses to fire and ground. I believe that's it. But regardless, my team has a lot of all of those. Maybe not so much fire, but it has the rest. I really don't think he'll bring Rock's Bisharp. That's all I'm trying to get at here. So I think his rocker is going to be the Gliscor. I'm not really sure if it's going to have defog. It very well could be a toxic heal or a poison heal variant, just in general to be a nuisance to my team. I'm not really sure, but his team is weak to hazards. That's the main thing here. His team is weak to hazards. He most likely will not bring defog. So with no defog, dual screens are there to stay unless he brings Brick Break. If he sees dual screens coming and brings Brick Break, then so be it. He got me. But I don't think that he will think along those lines for this build. He will be more focused on the rain option. I am going to bring the offense, and I'm going to bring it supported by dual screens, and we're going to hope for the best, essentially. So in terms of my bigger threats to his team, I've already kind of outlined his big threats of Volcanion, Mega Venusaur, and Kieran Black, Bisharp to an extent, Alakazam is also kind of an issue as well, just because a Sash variant is very difficult for my team to handle without losing something in the process. So just working around that's a little bit complicated, but in general, his team is not going to match up well to hyper offense supported by screens. That's my game plan, and I'll get into my team here very shortly. Now, the bigger threats on my team to his, Thunderous T, it has access to super effective coverage for his entire roster, which is fantastic. With that in mind, I think that my best possible items that I could run on it are an Expert Belt or a Focus Sash. Expert Belt definitely is viable. Expert Belt will let me do a ton of damage to the Venusaur as well as really anything else on his roster. However, with the prominence of Resist Berries in the formats and just knowing that Cipher has been known to run them in the past, he ran 1 or 2 of them against me in the National Pokeball League, I think that I should run a Focus Sash on my Thunderous this week just to deal the most damage possible to his team and essentially guarantee that I could take something down with me as long as I lead with a Thunderous. Other threats I have against him: he has been known to run a Volcanion without much speed investment if he brings Volcanion, so I'm expecting that if he brings it, it'll be more bulky, and it'll have something along the lines of a Life Orb or Choice Spec. So with that in mind, if I bring a fast Scizor with Natural Gift, Ground, or Electric, I should be able to do a ton to the Volcanion. It actually can OHKO the Volcanion at +2 after a Swords Dance, which is pretty wonderful, and considering Volcanion probably is his best initial switch into Scizor, I think that'll work. I'm pretty sure that will work if he brings Volcanion. So Scizor is looking pretty nice against him as well. And finally, the Salamence is also looking pretty strong against him offensively. The only real stop he has to a Dragon Dance Salamence is the Granbull. Mince has access to Iron Tail, and despite the fact that it's, somewhat likely that he might bring up a Berry on his Granbull, I do think that I should still bring something along the lines of a physical Salamence. Just so I can have that setup threat. It's also supported fantastically by the dual screens, as if I get up a +2 or a +1 from a Dragon Dance with dual screens up, then Granbull cannot OHKO me with Play Rough. So even if it is a Berry, I should be able to 2-hit KO with Iron Tail. So I think that my offense is very solid against him, especially when I'm not using any rain whatsoever, because I really do expect him to prepare heavily for rain because he has the assets to do so. So just try and work around that a little bit in my team build. Now let's go ahead and hop on over to what I actually decided to bring. So we're starting with this core of Sylveon and my Serperior. Let's start with the Sylveon. His team is so weak to Sylveon. He doesn't have a counter to Sylveon, quite frankly. The combination of Fairy Psychic coverage hits his entire team really hard. Sylveon, it takes hits from Alakazam, it can take hits from Gliscor, it can honestly take hits from Volcanion. Even a Spec Sludge Bomb isn't going to be doing that much to me when I have the Calm Mind up. So, as you can see from the set, I'm going to run some Calm Mind this week. So Volcanion really isn't a great stop to Sylveon either, in my opinion, especially when supported by dual screens, which we'll get to here very soon. But just in general, I think this is going to be my top 1 condition this week. At the very least, it should be able to break holes in his team to the point where my other sweepers can come through and pull out the victory. I've got essentially max HP, essentially max defense here, just so I can best take hits from his physical sweepers, as Iron Head Kieran Black is one of his few ways to maybe take this thing out if he flinches me down with the first Iron Head, as it should be a guaranteed 2-hit KO unless he has 0 attack investments. So he can take me out with Iron Head from Kieran Black. He can also potentially take me out if he has a physical Volcanion. I believe he gets access to Iron Head as well, so that could do a good amount of damage to me. And of course Bisharp as well. The Iron Heads, of course, it probably will still take me out, but if I have my Reflect up, then the Bisharp is not going to be a factor in terms of taking out these Sylveons. So just in general, defense was the best way to go, and then I put the Calm Mind on there to boost my special defense stats, and behind screens this thing is just an absolute menace against his team. So let's see how I build around that. So the core includes the Serperior, which is Light Clay dual screens. Now Serperior otherwise is utterly useless against his team because he has the likes of the Mega Venusaur. I guess that's all he really needs to switch in to the Serperior and make it utterly useless. I calced it, and if I was max special attack and +6 from my Leaf Storms, I still would not be anywhere close to 2-hit KO and Mega Venusaur. So running an offensive Serp was not really ideal this week. So with that in mind, I decided to run a dual screens variant with Glare and Leaf Storm, just because Leaf Storm's amazing on Serperior. Now Glare is actually something I want to bring attention to here, as if I Glare the Mega Venusaur, then Mega Venusaur is guaranteed slower than Sylveon, and due to the fact that I'm running Calm Mind on Sylveon and I'm supporting Sylveon with dual screens, that makes Mega Venusaur setup fodder for my Sylveon, and that's the game plan going in. I want to set up a Calm Mind or two on the Mega Venusaur and proceed to sweep his team with the Sylveon supported by dual screens, or at least take out half of his team and then clean up the pieces with my offense. That's the game plan. I really do think it's actually going to work. For a while I was kind of apprehensive about this matchup just because he does have the likes of all these wall breakers and Alakazam and Bisharp, which are both pretty good against offense, but upon thinking about it a little bit more, I think this plan actually makes a lot of sense, and I'm pretty excited to see how it works out in this battle, just due to the fact that having Glare plus dual screen support really shuts down the Venusaur and gives Sylveon the opportunity to really shine against his team, as he has very few potential ways to get rid of dual screens. I don't think he's going to have any way to do it, and I'm pretty excited to see how that goes. Now let's go ahead and hop on over to the next mon, being the Salamence. I already kind of alluded to this before. This is a physically oriented DD Moxie Salamence. I can hit everything on his team very hard. I don't even have to click Dragon Dance if I don't want to, but I can click Dragon Dance if I do want to, because if I have screens up, then I can easily survive a player up from the Grand Bull potentially and 2-hit KO with the Iron Tail, regardless of what item he is. Earthquake and Outrage both do a ton to him. If he doesn't bring the Grand Bull, then I can just click Outrage and do a ton to most of his team. Excuse me. And yeah, so just overall, this is very, very strong against him. If I get a Dragon Dance up, take something out, and get a Moxie boost, it's GG. He has nothing outside of priority from the Bisharp to be able to take a hit from this. So I'm thinking Mince is definitely a solid offensive option against him. Now next up is the Thundurus T. I already mentioned this before. Actually, this is wrong. I actually changed it to a Focus Sash at the last minute, so I'll go ahead and correct that right now. So this set is designed to take any hit because of the Focus Sash. It's a dedicated lead this week, just because there's no way, I don't think. There's very few ways that he would be able to beat this lead matchup 1v1. One way to do that would be to lead Bisharp and be like a Choice Scarf variant and flinch me down with a couple Iron Heads. He could also lead Kieran Black and flinch me down with some Iron Heads. I don't think he's going to click Iron Head against the Thundurus. That just doesn't make much sense. So I think in general this is definitely going to be solid against him. At the very least, it'll bring something down to very low health, which is nice, because essentially this thing's job is to do damage and weaken something. Because something will be weakened by this as long as I hit my moves, and when that something is weakened, that will open the door for one of my other sweepers to become the win con in this game. That's essentially the idea. Weaken something, and then something else becomes a win con. I guess that's hyper offense, huh? But that's the idea with this team, and we'll see how it goes. So this is speed creeping base 100s. I believe that would include the Tentacruel, just in case he decided to bring a max speed Tentacruel. I believe he actually brought like Jolly SD Tentacruel against me in the NPL, so something to keep in mind there. Now next up is the Scizor. I hate bringing Natural Gift twice in such close succession, but I'm doing it, and that's because his best switch-ins to Tentacruel to Scizor are Tentacruel, Melodic, and Volcanion. All of those are weak to electric, so I might as well run some electric coverage for them. I see no real reason not to. I don't really need anything else besides Bullet Punch and Bug Bite to do big damage to his team. I don't think he can afford to bring Fire Fang Gliscor, especially if it's going to be a defogger, so this could just be able to set up in Gliscor's face potentially. No Roost on this is a little bit annoying not to have, just because I like being able to recover when I can, but I think just the offensive nature of this team will make this shine pretty well, especially considering I believe that Salamence will be able to break walls for this thing incredibly well, especially if he doesn't bring the Gramble this week. So this is a max speed Jolly set. I probably could have optimized this a little bit, but essentially what I wanted to do was make sure I outsped any Volcanion. I can't outspeed a timid Volcanion with this set, unfortunately. Volcanion has a higher base speed. I just don't think he will bring max speed Volcanion or anything close to it, because why would you try to speed creep a Scizor with a Volcanion? I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say that. It's actually a pretty logical thought process to try to speed creep a Scizor with Volcanion, at least in my mind, but just based upon his prior preparation against this team, he ran a more bulky set. I'm trying to take advantage of that here by having the Natural Gift Electric on this, and just in general, I think it's pretty darn good against this team. This also lets me check a potential Scarf Kieran Black as well as a regular Kieran Black, in addition to an Alakazam. So last up is the Mega Swampert. This is my rocker. I believe I can set up rocks against a lot of his team with this def set, as he can run all the grass coverage he wants. Given this investment, I should be able to live essentially any of it. I believe the only thing that can take me out guaranteed is take me out is an Energy Ball from a Life Orb Alakazam. I believe that should be able to do it, but Focus Sash is not guaranteed. I'm pretty confident on that. And then in terms of the Mega Venusaur, even if he is modest max special attack Mega Venusaur, if he runs Giga Drain as his coverage, he cannot OHKO me. At least it's very unlikely that he can OHKO me. It's like a it's close to a 2% chance, and you know my luck with 2% chances, but it's very, very low. It's one of the lowest possible, or one of the highest possible rolls would be required in order to take out the Mega Swampert in one hit with a max special attack, Mega Venusaur's Giga Drain. So I think this is very, very solid. Now, the fact that I'm able to eat up all those special hits so well makes Mirror Coat such an awesome move this matchup, especially supported by dual screens, as this could let me get a cheap KO against the Kyurem Black, could let me get a nice early KO against the Mega Venusaur. That'd be wonderful. And just in general, it's good coverage for things on his team, including the Volcanion. I could get a nice KO on that as well if he's trying to fish for a Seam Eruption burn or something. So in terms of the coverage, Scald and Earthquake probably the best options here. Scald hits the Gliscor as hard as possible. He very well could be a defensive Gliscor to try to take on the Scizor, so I think that Scald might be a little bit smarter than running Waterfall for that reason, but regardless, I don't think Gliscor wants to stay in against Swampert anyways, so it's kind of irrelevant, but just having Scald is also nice for the burns. If the water's hot, it'll definitely help me out a little bit in this game. So finally, we have Earthquake for pretty obvious reasons. He has several things that are weak to Earthquake on his team, and it's just good coverage for the Bisharp and such. So that is the team, and I'm looking forward to this match. I think this is a pretty good team, and I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. But Cipher's a good player. His team is very scary. I think I found the holes, and we're going to try to exploit them in this game. So let's go ahead and hop on into this and see if we can pull this off, and maybe we can get our record back up to 500 after inheriting that ugly 0-2 start. So let's see what we can do, and I will be right back. Okay, and here we are with team preview, and as you can see, he brought some threats, to say the least. He did not bring the Volcanion, which is pretty nice, I have to say, just because I don't really want to switch into it. Not that I really plan to make switches anyways, given this team, but it's just nice to not be something I have to worry about. Although it would have been cool to really see my natural get the Electric Scizor in action against that, but I could save that for the Melodic potentially, so that's always something that I have the opportunity potentially to do later on. He also did not bring the Bisharp, which is pretty interesting to say the least. I think Bisharp would have been good for the potential Sylveon here, as without it, what's he have for Sylveon? Let's take a look at this roster. His counter apparently is Mega Venusaur, and let's just say that's not a counter. It's not a counter to Sylveon with Calm Mind, especially when I have Glare support on my Superior to slow it down. Therefore, I can set up in Venusaur's face and have a very good time against it like that. So, Sylveon, easily the win condition in this game. And we're going to do our best to put it in that position to win. I think Salamence is also a pretty massive threat. Unfortunately, he did bring the Gramble, but if I can weaken the Gramble with the Salamence, then it really gives Scizor an even easier time, just in case it's a Berry Gramble, which honestly is pretty possible, I think, against me. But if I do prog the Berry with my Salamence's Iron Tail, then Scizor just comes in and clicks it against the Gramble, and it'll go away. So just the combination, Mint Scizor, looking pretty good, kind of like I expected it would. And finally, the Thundurus, oh my lord, it's so good against his team. Every single thing takes a ton of damage from that. The only way he can switch in easily against it is if he is an Assault Vest Gramble, but I really do not expect Assault Vest this week, especially considering the likelihood of a DD Salamence against his team. So I'm very happy with what I built this week, and let's see how it looks in action. But as I already said before, my dedicated lead is my Thundurus, because it is on the Focus Sash, so we're going to go ahead and do that here. I'm not really sure what he will lead with. He has a lot of options. Doesn't really matter. Thundurus is my lead, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So he decides to actually lead off with Space Jam his Kyurem Black. Now, two options here. He could be three options. He could be Choppleberry, he could be Sashed, he could be Scarfed. I think he's possibly, it doesn't matter. My play regardless is to go for Focus Blast. As I go for Focus Blast here, and he actually turns out to be Scarfed, brings me down to my Sash. I'm saying, please don't freeze, and luckily we don't get frozen, so we do get to get off that hit against this. And if he is a minus Spadef nature, I definitely have a chance to take this out, but he barely lives. I think he is minus Spadef given that damage roll. But regardless, we get a ton of damage on that, and now it's easily in range of essentially anything on my team. My best play, knowing he's locked into Ice Beam, is to go into my Scizor here to scare him out, and then pull a double back into my Mega Swampert to get up my Stealth Rocks on whatever his switch in is. It's pretty easily my best play because Rocks are so good against him. His only potential way to get rid of hazards is the Gliscor, and I really don't think he's going to bring Defog. I really don't think so, given how it really didn't do anything last game. So Last game being his matchup against Poi in week 1. So I am just going to pull the double here into my Swampert to get my rocks up as early as possible. It also confirms that if I get the rocks up, his Kieran Black cannot come back in at any point. So that would be absolutely wonderful. But he makes a nice play here and pulls the switch directly into Kieran Black to try to get off that last bit of damage against my Swampert. But I'm having none of it. I'm just going to go straight for the rocks here. And considering I am a fully Spadef Mega Swampert, he really has no way of doing a lot of damage to me because my natural defense is very high. He could go for Scarf Outrage, sure, if he really wants to, but knowing him and just knowing in general what people's thought process would be when they see a Mega Swampert, he's probably expecting to be more physically defensive, so he's probably going to go straight for the Ice Beam, right? So he's going to go for Ice Beam here. That's exactly what he does, and it actually does, like, nothing. Look how little this does. It does like 50. It does like 50. This thing is stupid bulky. I'm so surprised. Like, this thing's actually kind of viable, I think, even without the rain in the format. But I am able to just take out the Kieran Black with a Scald. I went for Scald just in case he got the freeze. It really didn't matter, I guess, in that case. But he is just going to go straight to his Venusaur, which will scare me out. I thought there was a decent chance I'd be able to survive a Giga Drain and go for the Mirror Coat, but I really don't want to play my hand quite yet, just in case I really need it later on for the surprise. And there's an equally likely chance he'll go for the Leech Seed here. So I'm just going to go straight in my Mints, kind of to scout what he wants to do. I'm not really fearing anything. I don't think he's Hidden Power Ice. I think it's much more likely that it's Hidden Power Fire for the Scizor, so Mints should be pretty safe to go into here, as it should just give me the opportunity to go straight for the Dragon Dance or an Outrage, whatever I choose to do, as he just goes straight for the Leech Seed. So here, in hindsight, I probably should have just gone for the Outrage on this turn. It would have been smarter overall, just in case he went to his Gramble. I was thinking I could maybe get up a +1 on this, and then get up another +1 as he tried to go into his Gramble the next turn. But in hindsight, I definitely should have just gone for the Outrage here. No reason not to, as if I got chip damage on the Venusaur, it makes it easier for other things to do work later on. So misplay on my part potentially, but it really is inconsequential here, as I'll explain later on in the battle. So I do just go for the Dragon Dance as he goes hard into his Gramble. And if I had just gone for the Outrage there, it would have been ineffective and I would not have been lock-hitted anyway, so I really had no reason not to. Kind of a misplay, whatever. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to try to go for the Iron Tail anyways, because if I can weaken this with my Mints, then it is going to be in range of my Thundurus, and that means I can get Thundurus back in to do more work before he gets a Stealth Rock up later in the game, as I have no way to get rid of them. Unfortunately, I missed my Iron Tail, so it's kind of unfortunate, kind of sucks. I would have liked to get my Thundurus in again to do a little bit more work, because it definitely had another big hit or two left in it, especially after the Iron Tail damage. This thing would be in range of a Thunderbolt from that thing, so I actually would get probably 2 more hits left on that thing, so it's a little bit unfortunate that I missed the Iron Tail and lose my Mints here, but not the end of the world, and I'll explain that here later on. So here, I'm just going to go for the Reflect. It's my best play with the Serperior. I know I could scare him out with a potential Leaf Storm, go straight into his Venusaur. This is perfectly fine. This is exactly what I wanted. So now, expecting him to go for the Sludge Bomb, I'm just going to go for the Light Screen. No reason not to. I could go for the Glare here, but there's really no point. I'd rather get the Light Screen up now. And he goes for Hidden Power. It isn't super effective against my Serperior, so it's most definitely Fire for the Scizor, and that does 0 to the Serperior as well. Now here I'm going to go for the Glare, as Paralysis is the best status in the game, and paralyzing this Mega Venusaur is fantastic, mainly for the drop in speed, but it's also kind of nice to give him those full paralysis from time to time. I'm not going to deny that I enjoy when my opponent is fully paralyzed, because it happens to me all the time too. So paralyzed Mega Swampert, or Mega Venusaur is paralyzed. We're going to go straight into our Sylveon, potentially thinking he might not have Sludge Bomb, but that was kind of a rash thought, as he does just go for the Sludge Bomb here, revealing that he's either going to be a 2-attack Mega Venusaur without coverage to hit my my Mega Swampert, or he's going to be a Mega Venusaur without recovery. So that's just something to keep in mind, but he fortunately does not get the poison against my Sylveon, as this is my opportunity to go for the Calm Mind, as once I get up the Calm Mind, then I can 2-hit KO his entire team with my coverage of Hyper Voice and Psyshock. He goes into Gliscor here, which I don't really understand. I guess I understand. He switched into it because he had Taunt. This is kind of a Stall Breaker Gliscor set, and he wanted to make sure he got up his Toxic Orb, as you can see now. But I don't know. I kind of disagree with that play. I'm not really sure what a better play would have been, honestly, but going into Gliscor here is essentially sacrificing it off, making my Scizor even more of a threat against his team. As you can see, this Hyper Voice does an absolute ton, and now he's essentially pressed with an option of either going for Stealth Rock if he wants to have hazards and take out my Thunderous Tea, or he can try to Roost up and, I don't know, somehow try to stall me out with a combination of Protect and Roost with his Toxic Orb, something like that. But he makes the better play in my opinion. He goes for the Stealth Rock, making my Thunderous Tea no longer useful. Essentially makes it just death fodder for later on in the game, but I am able to take out the Gliscor here, which is pretty nice, to say the least. Now here, he really doesn't have much he can do, because I have dual screens up, I'm a +1 with my Sylveon, there's nothing on his team that can OHKO me. He definitely probably is regretting that he doesn't have Bisharp right now, and we're just going to go ahead and do some big damage to whatever comes in. He brings in his Mega Venusaur, so here, we're just going to go for the Psyshock. He had to essentially pray that I was Wish Protect, Calm Mind, Hyper Voice, which I am not. I am bringing Psyshock for the Mega Venusaur, and that's going to do a metric ton to the Mega Venu. It did, like, what, 60-70%, which is fantastic. That's only a +1. Sylveon is so strong. I don't think I have any special attack investment on this either, so this thing is such a monster. But it's still not as good as Clef, though. Just had to put that in there. But as you can see, he does get the Poison with his Sludge Bomb, which kind of sucks. It basically means that my Sylveon won't be able to straight up sweep his team, as otherwise it was kind of looking like it might. But as you can see, the screens are starting to wear off. I do think it's my opportunity to go for a Wish, because after the Wish I should be able to survive anything as long as he doesn't crit me with a Sludge Bomb. And it turns out he actually gets paralyzed here. So, I'm kind of sorry about that. Not really. But fortunately for me, I am able to pretty easily hang on here, just go for the Psyshock and take out this. He couldn't risk switching anything into Psyshock either, because I would just follow it up with another powerful attack and take it right out. So that's pretty awesome, as well as the Mega Venu does go down here. Now here he makes an interesting play and switches into his Gramble after his Mega Venu goes down. My assumption is that he had investment on his Gramble to outpace a 0-speed Sylveon, or a 4-speed Sylveon, so if I had given Sylveon like 1 extra speed point. But I actually speed crept that. So if he was speed creeping me, then he just got speed crept right back, and we are going to obliterate this Gramble with the Sylveon. And this is why the Iron Tail miss really didn't end up mattering that much, outside of maybe getting Thundurus a kill, as I do just take out the Gramble here, which is pretty nice. As now he doesn't have much left at all. I believe all he has left is like the Melodic and the Alakazam. Trying to think if he has something else still. I think it's just those two, but I might be wrong. But Sylveon's looking pretty darn scary for the rest of his team. As now he's forced to go into his Alakazam. I think he was trying to preserve this because it's most likely Focus Sash, and that damage confirms that it's definitely not Life Orb, as it would have done a lot more if it was Life Orb. And that's going to do a ton to the Alakazam. It did like 90% there, so that's fantastic. Easily in Bullet Punch range from the Scizor, so it sure is looking like Scizor's the win con right now, as long as I can get the Melodic a little bit more weak. But I do have the Serperior at full health. I do have dual screens to make sure that Melodic can't OHKO my Serperior with anything but the Mirror Coat. So basically that's going to be essentially my my thought process at the end of the game. But here he makes a nice switch into his Melodic, I guess expecting me to try to preserve my Sylveon. In hindsight, maybe I should have just gone for the Hyper Voice. I'm not really sure on that. I think I still made the right play here, sacking off my Thunders for this free switch into something. But I guess Hyper Voice might have been a better play, just in hindsight, obviously. But I think my play was right in the moment. But sacking off my Thunders for the free switch into my Serperior, as now this is a very free light screen. And given the amount of Pokemon he has left, I'm pretty sure this light screen will be here to stay for the rest of the game, which is pretty awesome. I really don't need to worry about a Reflect here either, which is nice, because he has no physical attackers left. So he just goes for the Dragon Tail to get rid of me, revealing that he probably does not have Mirror Coat, which is what I was trying to figure out as well with that play. I didn't want to go straight for the Leaf Storm just in case he had Mirror Coat, and he might be at the point where he thinks I might not have Leaf Storm, but obviously I have Leaf Storm for a Melodic, so he is going to Dragon Tail me out into my Scizor, which is a little bit scary. I don't want to go straight for the Natural Gift Electric yet, just in case he has the Wakan Berry, and I also cannot OHKO from that range anyways, but with the screen up, I think the Sylveon might have a chance of surviving 2 Scalds, especially if I'm able to outspeed this, but Melodic's a little bit faster than I gave it credit for. I probably should have checked that as well before making this play, but it's actually faster than my Sylveon, so it really wouldn't have made a difference here, as he's going to be able to take me out with the Scald. However, if the Sludge Bomb had not poisoned me earlier, then I would have been able to survive. But I did burn him, I believe, earlier with, or I didn't burn him with the Scald. I got a little bit of hacks early with the paralysis, so I'm okay with getting poisoned by the Sludge Bomb and losing my Sylveon here because of it. I also missed the Iron Tail. I don't know, it evens out pretty well. But I'm just going to go straight into my Superior, and I'm going to click Leaf Storm, as he can't switch in Zam because he needs Zam to have any chance of winning. Zam is his win con right now, and I don't think he is going to be Rando Berry. I think he is probably Wakan Berry. That's my best guess at this point. And I'm trying to play to the point where I don't have to click Natural Gift Electric with my Scizor. I want to be able to beat him with Bug Bite, just in case that is the case. And the Leaf Storm damage indicates that I most definitely can do that right here. So that's exactly what I'll go for, as I know I'll outspeed this. I'm essentially max speed. He's not going to be max speed Melodic, and even if he is, I have the light screen up, and he should not be able to take me out with a Scald anyways. So the only way he would beat me there if he was like a max speed Melodic and burns me with Scald. But I just take it out with a Bug Bite. So down goes the Melodic. All he has left is the Alakazam, and that will not be able to survive a max attack Bullet Punch from the Scizor. So we pull off the victory against the Detroit Liepards, advancing now to a 3-3 record overall with, I believe, a 0 differential. So we are now back to square one. We have erased the deficit that I inherited, the O2, like -7 or whatever deficit that I inherited, something really bad like that. And now we're back on square one with, this was week 6, so we have 6 battles left in the MPL. If I win out, then I think I can make playoffs. If I win maybe 4 of my next 6 games. If I win 4 of my next 6 games, I think I have a good shot at playoffs. I want to win more than 4. I want to win at least 5 of my next 6, which I think I'm capable of doing. It's just a matter of if time, like my time and preparation, will allow it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think I'm capable of doing it. I'm going to try to, but I guess we'll see what happens. But great game, Cipher. It really was a good match for sure. Perhaps a little hacksy at times on both ends, but it ended up being a pretty good match, I would say. And I'm pretty happy to see how well Sylveon did this game, really, as well as the dual screen Superior idea. But yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching, guys. And next week we have a game against Dench and the Viridian Beedrills. From what I'm seeing, he is not having the best season in the world, to say the least, but I think he's still a pretty competent player. It's not going to be an easy win by any means. I'm definitely going to have to prep pretty hard because he does have the almighty Clefable. So we're going to have to make sure that does not get out of hand, but we'll get there when we get there. So thanks for watching, guys. And just so you know, next weekend I'll only have 1 draft upload because my National Pokeball League game will be postponed until the end of the season. So you can only expect 1 major Pokemon League battle next weekend instead of the 2 that you normally get. But that's all I have to say. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next week. Peace.